A video on race and crime is going viral with 7,500 views in 2 days. Hermes is an alt-right influencer with 53,000 YouTube subscribers and 91,000 followers on Twitter. He conducts interviews in the style of Mark Dice. At 3 minutes in, Hermes asked a Boulder, Colorado college student, "Do you think maybe some of the violent crime could be contributed to genetics? Because there is what's called a warrior gene in African DNA that makes him prone maybe to violence." You can watch her vitriolic response at the link above. Is there a genetic component to violent crime? This is a question that has sparked controversy, headlines, and taboo debates over the years. In 2020, Joe Rogan hosted a guest who claimed certain groups carried a gene for violence. MyIndy.com 2022. The Joe Rogan episode featured a guest claiming black people had a genetic proclivity to violence. The 2015 episode, which has now been archived by Spotify, featured an interview with far-right political activist Chuck C. Johnson, a notorious troll who was deplatformed by Twitter in the same year. NBC News. Chuck Johnson, an alt-right activist, promoted the idea that African Americans have a gene that promotes violent behavior. Continuing, an alt-right activist who met with 2 Republican congressmen to discuss DNA and genetics posted on Facebook that he believes Muslims are genetically different in their propensity for violence or rape, and linked to stories about how African Americans possessed a violence gene. Continuing, in February 2016, he implored people to Google the MAOA gene. The Google search results for MAOA often featured debunked articles attempting to tie race to violence. Chuck Johnson quoted, quote, "We also don't talk about how they are genetically different in their propensity for violence or rape, or even though the empirical evidence is overwhelming." End quote. That particular episode in the Joe Rogan Experience has been pulled, deleted, or is near impossible to find. Genetics basics. At the center of this debate is the MAOA gene, often nicknamed the warrior gene. When we talk about MAOA, we're referring to a specific gene allele encoded on the double helix of DNA, a molecular switch that influences how the brain regulates neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. MAOA encodes these enzymes that break down neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. Variations in this gene can alter brain chemistry, influencing impulse control and aggression. One variant, the low-activity MAOA genotype, has been linked to impulsive aggression. In one study, Caspi et al. 2002, 12% of men had both the low-activity variant and a history of abuse, yet they accounted for 44% of violent crime convictions. But carrying this gene alone does not mean someone will commit a crime. Epigenetics. As Caspi et al. Demonstrated in 2002, risk increases when the low-activity MAOA gene interacts with childhood maltreatment of environments lacking stable parental figures, such as homes where a father is absent. Other more recent studies have backed up the original findings of Caspi et al. 2002. Published at Frontiers, Epigenetic Modifications in Stress Response Genes Associated with Childhood Trauma. Stress in these contexts can leave epigenetic marks that amplify aggressive tendencies. Another study published in 2013 specifically linked these gene alleles to violence. Salman Sohrabi is a professor at the Department of Bioengineering at the University of Texas, Arlington. He published his study on MAOA and its link to violence in 2013. From NIH.gov, The Criminal Gene. Recent advances in neuroscience includes the discovery of possible links between violent criminal behavior and genetics. Continuing, MAOA is a gene encoding an enzyme responsible for catabolizing amine neurotransmitters such as dopamine, serotonin, and noradrenaline. Continuing, MAOA gene has been linked to increased levels of aggression and violence. The author concludes, behavior could be influenced by environmental factors. However, further research into this aspect of neurocriminology is required. Professor J.C. Barnes of the University of Cincinnati agrees, remarking on MAOA, quote, "It's clear our genetic and biological makeup have an impact on our behavior," end quote. The gangster gene. Kevin Bieber is a criminology professor at Florida State University. From his bio, Professor Bieber has employed behavioral genetic and molecular genetic methodologies to unpack the gene-environmental basis to a range of criminal and delinquent outcomes. He published his paper in 2010. Monoamine oxidase A genotype is associated with gang membership and weapon use. The New Scientist reported on Kevin Bieber's findings in 2009. Gangster gene identified in U.S. teen. From newscientist.com, males with a particular form of a gene called MAOA are twice as likely to join a gang, finds a new study. Gang members with these mutations are far more likely to use a weapon than other members. Ethnicity. Do certain ethnic populations have a natural predisposition to commit crime? Scientific American in April 2011 posed the question, do genes make certain people evil? In the early 2000s, studies on race and MAOA surfaced. Now they've vanished, scrubbed, erased, reduced to page not found. One lone reference to these studies survives on the internet, preserved on Narkive, a site that archives old forum content. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and leave a comment. We'll see you soon.